Reborn in the famine years, before my eldest brother died, he asked me, "Do you want a wife?" I agreed on the spot. It turned out he wanted me to marry my sister-in-law's younger sister, and he even secretly hinted that my sister-in-law could be mine too. Before I could even process it, my eldest brother breathed his last. The family was so poor that all we had left were corn buns. My sister-in-law said with red eyes that the food wouldn't last 10 days. I silently slung my big bow over my back and went up the mountain. When I came back, the sack was heavy and full. Tonight, I'm going to feed my sister-in-law well. December 1959, Dongtuan in the north. I woke up on the Kong and looked at the ceiling plastered all over with people's daily newspapers. The calendar on the wall clearly showed 1959. Just a second ago, I was carrying out a mission in the wild forests abroad. So how did I open my eyes and return to the famine years? Back to when I was 20, back to 8 days before I left Dongtuan. That is to say, today is the day my eldest brother dies. I sat on the Kong in a daze for a long time. In my previous life, 8 days later, I took half the family's grain and said I was going out to make money. As a result, I was arrested for speculation and profiteering. By the time I came back, my sister-in-law was already dead. After I left, she was forcibly assigned by the production brigade, and on the way to the wedding the groom fell to his death. Everyone said she was cursed to bring death to her husband. She firmly refused to marry again and told others that she was already my woman. Later her younger sister came too, and the two women depended on each other, but they still failed to survive that winter, both freezing to death on the snowy mountain. I hated myself. Later I joined a hunting organization and killed more than 100 Japanese devils, but the guilt in my heart never faded for my entire life. Smack. I gave myself a hard slap across the face. In this life, I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay by her side. Knock, knock, knock. Yangzi, your eldest brother wants you to come over. He has something to say to you. It was my sister-in-law's voice. I suddenly hunched up, my heart pounding hard. I opened the door, crossed the main room, and pushed open my eldest brother's door. Seeing that familiar face, my breathing quickened. Sister-in-law? I strode forward and pulled her into my arms. Sister-in-law, it's so good to see you again. Her whole body stiffened. Yangzi, let go of me now. I'm not letting go. You have to let go whether you want to or not. You brat, I'm not dead yet. My eldest brother lay on the Kong, so angry his eyes were practically popping out. He had been paralyzed for months and couldn't get up at all. My sister-in-law took the chance to break free, blushing as she stood to one side with her arms crossed over her chest. My eldest brother took a few breaths, and his tone suddenly calmed down. Yangzi, come here. I walked to the edge of the Kong and sat down. Let me ask you, do you want a wife or not? Yes, of course I do. I glanced at my sister-in-law. My eldest brother almost stopped breathing from anger. I meant for your sister-in-law to bring her younger sister over to be your wife. My sister-in-law hurriedly added, Yangzi, my younger sister is pretty, very obedient and capable, and she doesn't eat much either, so she won't be a burden on the family. By the end, her voice was getting lower and lower. One more person means one more mouth to feed, so saying she wouldn't be a burden was a lie. But if she didn't bring it up, her younger sister might not survive over there. My eldest brother sighed. Yangzi, I don't have much time left. The one I'm most worried about is your sister-in-law. I'm afraid that after I'm gone, the production brigade will forcibly assign her to some other bachelor. He paused for a moment, then continued. Although we live under the same roof, we've actually already split the household. Once I die, the household registration will be gone, and your sister-in-law will become a single woman with no one to rely on. But if you marry her younger sister, then you'll be one family, with a family relationship and labor force, and the brigade won't be able to arrange her however they like. Your sister-in-law's younger sister is very pretty and hardworking. In the future, she'll give our Lee family a big healthy boy and carry on the family line. As he said this, he glanced at my sister-in-law. When the time comes and I'm gone, she will be your sister-in-law in name, but in reality. You understand what I mean, right? There are plenty of bachelors in these parts, and now you've got two, so you should be secretly pleased. From now on, you need to learn how to support a family and stop fooling around. By the end, his breathing was growing weaker and weaker. Big brother, don't worry, I will definitely take good care of sister-in-law. Big brother nodded slightly, but his eyes were fixed on sister-in-law, his lips moving, though it was impossible to hear what he was saying. Then his head tilted to one side, and his body went limp. There was not much pain on his face. He passed away very peacefully, even with a hint of relief. The funeral was kept simple. With the help of a few villagers, Big Brother was laid to rest. The falling snow added a touch more sorrow to this silent funeral. 3 days later, sister-in-law and I were cleaning up the miscellaneous things left over from the funeral in the yard. She had barely slept these past 2 or 3 days, and her face looked terribly haggard. Sister-in-law, go get some rest. Leave this to me. I'm fine. She kept her head down and continued sweeping. After sweeping the yard, I said, sister-in-law, move into my room. I was worried she wouldn't be able to sleep in Big Brother's room. She froze for a moment, clearly misunderstanding. What I mean is, I'll stay in Big Brother's room, and you stay in mine. She nodded slightly and turned to pack her things. In fact, there wasn't much to pack, just swapping the Kong mat and the bedding. Seeing how absent-minded she looked, I knew what she was worrying about. After the funeral, there was not much grain left at home. Dinner was a few coarse corn buns, nowhere near enough to fill us up. Lying on the Kong, I looked around by the dim yellow light of the kerosene lamp. The place was truly bare-walled and impoverished. I had to find a way to get some grain. Doing business was out of the question. In these times, profiteering was a deadly crime. But hunting was possible. That was the skill I was best at. In my previous life, carrying out missions in the wild, what harsh environment had I not experienced? Freezing ice and snow, scorching desert sun, I had survived them all. The bit of mountain forest around East Village was nothing. It was just that this body was too weak, so I'd have to train it up slowly. Early the next morning, I did stretching exercises on the Kong to activate my body. Knock, knock, knock. Yangzi, breakfast is ready. Okay, coming right away. 5 minutes later, sister-in-law came knocking again. Yangzi? Right away. Before I could finish speaking, the door was pushed open. I was bare-chested, in the middle of getting dressed. Sister-in-law glanced over, and her face instantly turned red as she turned and ran off. I looked down at myself. There really was something there. After getting dressed and going into the main room, sister-in-law was sitting on the Kong, her eyes darting evasively, the blush on her face not yet gone. 2 corn buns were set on the Kong table. I really had no appetite, but this was all the family could manage. The cabbages and potatoes in the vegetable cellar were almost gone after the funeral. Yangzi, this is all our family has left, so we have to eat sparingly. I know. I took a bite of the corn bun. Sister-in-law, how long will our food last? If the 2 of us eat sparingly, it can last more than 10 days. She was speaking very conservatively. During the winter slack season, we only eat 2 meals a day, one at 10 in the morning and one at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Sister-in-law's lips moved, as if she wanted to say something but stopped herself. I knew what she wanted to say, that if her younger sister came over, it would be another mouth to feed, and life would be even harder. Sister-in-law, when will you bring your younger sister over? She froze for a moment. Yangzi, do you really want to marry my younger sister? Of course. I promised Big Brother that I would take good care of both of you. Sister-in-law lowered her head and silently nibbled at the corn bun, her eyes a little red. But our family. She didn't dare continue. Sister-in-law, don't worry, I'll figure out the food situation. In a bit, make a few corn buns for me to take up the mountain. You're going up the mountain? She immediately grew tense. It's snowing heavily outside. Going up the mountain is too dangerous. Several people in the village went up the mountain and never came back. Let's think of another way. I won't go into the deep mountains, just wander around the foothills. It won't be dangerous. Then I'll go with you, so we can look out for each other and dig up some acorns, pine nuts, or whatever. Those things are all stale and can't be eaten, but they can still fill our stomachs. She looked at me stubbornly. I looked into her eyes. Sister-in-law, just trust me this once. If I can't find any food this time, then next time we'll go together, okay? She was slightly stunned, probably because she had never seen such a serious expression on the face of her usually good-for-nothing younger brother-in-law. Before I left, my sister-in-law repeatedly reminded me, if you run into danger, climb a tree. Remember that? Don't worry, sister-in-law, I'm tough. Just wait at home, and don't run around. It's cold outside. After going out, I first detoured to Widow Lu's house. Her dead husband had been a hunter, and there was a large bough in the house. Knock, knock, knock. Who is it? Me, Yuanyang. Sister Lu, lend me your large bough. I want to try my luck in the mountains. And if I catch any prey, you'll definitely get your share. You're going up the mountain to hunt. Her tone was full of doubt. Last time, I had used similar words to trick her into opening the door and nearly caused her great trouble. Sister Lu, I was wrong last time, but I've really changed. Open the door. No, I don't have any hunting tools here. Go find Hunter Chun. I knew it. I pulled out the machete and drove the blade precisely into the crack of the door. With an upward lift, there was a crack, and the door latch snapped. I lunged with my arm. The door flew open, and Widow Lu was knocked backward. I grabbed her and pulled her back, and she happened to fall into my arms. Blushing, she gasped for breath. Then once she came to her senses, she struggled desperately. Let go of me. I immediately let go. Sister Lu, I'm sorry. I really had no choice. Hunter Chun and I don't get along, so I could only come to you to borrow it. She pointed to the corner. The large bough is over there. I had just turned and taken a step when she lifted her leg and ran for the door. I was prepared. I pulled out a rope and tied her up in a few quick moves, stuffed a rag into her mouth, and put her on the Kong. Tears streamed down her face as she thought she wouldn't escape today. I ignored her and searched the room. I found the large bough, the slingshot, and the quiver. 3 minutes later, I went over and untied the rope. Sister Lu, I really did come to borrow the large bough. I tied you up just now because I was afraid you'd run out and call for help. I offended you, and I apologize. I cupped my fists and bowed, then turned and left. On the way out, I even fixed the door latch. Widow Lu sat on the Kong, staring blankly at my departing figure. Her hand withdrew from under the pillow. That pair of scissors had never been used. After leaving Widow Lu's yard, I headed straight for Dama Mountain. I hadn't gone far when I ran into Zhang Long, the local hoodlum from the village. Well, Yangzi, carrying a large bough and a machete, going up the mountain to hunt. Huh? Ha ha. His face was full of mockery. Something you need? I looked at him coldly. He leaned closer and lowered his voice. Listen, Yangzi, you still owe me 6.5 yuan. You don't have to pay it back, as long as you persuade your sister-in-law to marry me. Without a word, I smashed my fist into the side of his face. His body stiffened, and he fell straight backward into the snow. I glanced at the house not far away where figures could be seen, slung the large bough on my back, and strode off. On Demo Mountain, the snow had been scraped into pits everywhere, and now and then a few sparrows searched for food in them. This famine is even worse than I imagined. Even the birds are about to starve to death. I raised the slingshot, wanting to shoot a few sparrows, but with a snap, the band came loose. This slingshot had been sitting for 3 years and had long since deteriorated. Looks like it wasn't their time to die. As I went deeper into the foothills, I finally noticed movement beside a patch of bushes. A gray wild rabbit was scraping through the snow for grass roots, and it was not small. I drew the big bough from 30 meters away, my arm trembling a little. This body's strength simply couldn't hold a full draw bow steady. I held my breath, took aim, and let go. Whoosh! The arrow flew out, and the wild rabbit sprang up with a jolt. Its hind leg had been pierced by the arrow, and it was caught in the bushes, struggling wildly. I rushed over, grabbed it by the ears, and with a crack, twisted its neck off. I grabbed a handful of snow to plug the arrow wound, cleaned off the bloodstains, and put it into the sack. Not a bad haul. At least there would be meat tonight. I kept walking for more than an hour, and shot another sand partridge. It only weighed a few ounces, but something was better than nothing. I pulled together some dry grass and sat down to gnaw on a corn bun, looking at the endless snowy mountains. In a famine year, even the animals were pitifully scarce. Just as I was considering whether to head back, the call of a pheasant came from the distance. I quickly followed the sound over and hid behind a rock. 25 meters away, a beautiful male pheasant was scraping through the snow for food on a sunny slope, its brilliantly colored feathers especially eye-catching in the sunlight. Draw the bow, aim, fire. The moment I shot the arrow, I immediately knocked a second one. Whether I'd get the chance for a follow-up was another matter, but I did what I could first. Squeak. The pheasant let out a sharp cry, flapped its wings twice, and went still. I quickly stepped forward, pulled out my machete, and slit its neck to bleed it out. The gray rabbit weighed over 4 jin, the sand partridge a few ounces, and the pheasant nearly 2 jin. My first hunt since being reborn, the haul wasn't bad. It was getting late. The mountain forest at night was the domain of predators, so he couldn't stay any longer. Li Yuanyang carried the sack and geared down the mountain happily. Tonight, he was going to feed his sister-in-law well. As he neared the foot of the mountain, Li Yuanyang came across 2 men sitting by the roadside, resting and chatting. One was a young man named Ding Shanha, about 23 or 24, who would later become a very formidable hunter. How did Li Yuanyang know? Because in his previous life, while he was keeping vigil at his sister-in-law's grave, Ding Shanha had already become the production team's main hunter and had made quite a few contributions to the team. Between 1960 and 1961, Ding Shanha rendered outstanding service to Dongtuan. Almost all the meat brought in from outside was provided by him. He was a truly kind man, and right now, he was only a novice hunter, following another man. The other one was named Zhou Liheng, a half-baked hunter in his 30s, with questionable character. At 25, he married a wife, then beat her until she jumped into the river and killed herself. Of course, That was someone else's family matter and not something you could interfere in. But in his previous life, it was he who paid a huge price to the production team, wanting to forcibly marry his sister-in-law, only to die on the way there. Serves him right. Yangzi, why are you coming down from the mountain? Ding Shanha called out in greeting. Brother Shanha, I just went up the mountain for a look around. Li Yuanyang also greeted him. He was 3 or 4 years older than Li Yuanyang, and that was how he usually addressed him. Are you learning to hunt too? Ding Shanha saw the big bow on Li Yuanyang's back, and it looked pretty convincing. Hee. Anyway, I had nothing else to do, so I'm just learning for fun and trying my luck. The two chatted for a couple of sentences when suddenly someone shouted from down the mountain. Shanha, come here. Ding Shanha responded loudly, then turned back to bid the two goodbye. Yangzi, brother Liheng, I'm heading off first. After saying that, he ran down the mountain. Li Yuanyang also stepped forward and had barely taken one step when Zhou Liheng's voice came from behind. Yangzi, smoking a cigarette, he looked at Li Yuanyang sideways, his gaze sweeping back and forth. What's in your sack? He asked curiously. Nothing much, just some stale dried fruit. Li Yuanyang replied casually. Dried fruit? Zhou Liheng slowly stood up and said slowly. Can dried fruit really be this heavy? Let me take a look. He was tall and powerfully built, and in Dongtuan he really wasn't afraid of anyone. He looked down even more on Li Yuanyang, a local hoodlum. It really is dried fruit. I'm really just taking a look. Zhou Liheng said with a frown. Li Yuanyang looked at Ding Shanha heading away down the mountain, then set down the sack. Zhou Liheng immediately came over and pulled it open. Yo, you even got a sand partridge? Zhou Liheng rummaged through the bag. It really did contain dried fruit, along with some dried grass. Under the dried grass was a sand partridge. He reached down to feel underneath as well. It was hard and solid, probably dried fruit. Where did you get it? Zhou Liheng asked as he took the sand partridge away. Li Yuanyang reached out to stop him. Liheng ji, I worked hard to get this. The family is waiting to cook this sand partridge. He hadn't expected this guy to not even bother pretending and just grab it directly. Don't worry, I'll trade you some dried fruit for it. I won't take it for nothing. As Zhou Liheng spoke, he reached into his sack for some dried fruit. He turned up 3 more sand partridges. These were what he had hunted today. Huh. Li Yuanyang chuckled inwardly. Does this guy really not know how the word death is written? Liheng ji, you got so much game today? That's amazing. Can you take me with you tomorrow? Me? Huh. Zhou Liheng sneered, looking down on him. Of course I can't compare to you, Liheng ji. Today I ran into a wild rabbit in the mountains. You know, I don't know how to hunt, so I didn't get it. Oh, and then? Zhou Liheng was tidying up the sack, getting ready to head home, and replied casually. Although I didn't catch the rabbit, I found its burrow, with several holes. Li Yuanyang made it sound vivid and convincing, and Zhou Liheng grew very interested. Li Yuanyang continued. So, I don't know how to deal with it either, so I wanted Liheng ji to help. The two of us can take it together, and then split it 50-50. Half each. What can you do? You've really got the nerve to ask for that. Zhou Liheng said irritably, 2080. This? How can that work? I haven't had meat for months. Li Yuanyang said somewhat anxiously, glancing at his sack. Zhou Liheng looked seriously at Li Yuanyang, who seemed like someone who hadn't eaten meat in ages. Kid, you're not tricking me, are you? Liheng ji, how would I dare joke around with you? You've got a gun. Even if you gave me 2 bear galls, I still wouldn't dare. Li Yuanyang said earnestly. Humph, I figured you wouldn't dare. Zhou Liheng thought for a moment and opened the sack, taking out 1 sand partridge from inside. Take this back and let your sister-in-law nourish herself a bit. Hee. Thanks, Liheng ji. Li Yuanyang said with a smile. No need to thank me. Maybe in the future we'll be family. Zhou Liheng broke off abruptly. Never mind. I should be going. He slung his gear and sack onto his back, and reminded him, don't you dare tell anyone else about the rabbit burrow, or don't blame me for turning hostile. After saying that, Zhou Liheng turned and headed down the mountain, thinking to himself that once he caught the rabbits, he'd get rid of Li Yuanyang too. Humph. By then even your sister-in-law will be mine, and you still want a 50-50 split? What are you dreaming about? Li Yuanyang watched Zhou Liheng's departing figure, his expression gradually darkening. He had already given Zhou Liheng a chance. Just now, when Li Yuanyang ignored him and went straight down the mountain, that was giving him a chance, but he didn't cherish it. It could only be said that he had chosen a dead-end path. Li Yuanyang hoisted the sack and hurried toward home. As for why he didn't kill Zhou Liheng on the spot, as the saying goes, it's easier to climb a tree than to get down from one. Of course, that also depends on where the tree is. This was the foot of the mountain, there were witnesses, and it would be hard to dispose of the body. Besides, it was already dark. Dongtuan. By the time Li Yuanyang returned to Dongtuan, it was completely night. A faint glow blanketed the entire village. This was the effect of the snow on the ground. Snow itself can reflect the starlight filling the sky and the atmospheric glow. If the weather is good, like tonight, the sky is deep blue and the ground is grayish-white, with no color and somewhat dim. Much darker than a black and white movie. Widow Li's residence. Knock, knock, knock. Li Yuanyang knocked on the door. No one spoke inside, but a dim yellow light seeped through the crack. Sister Lu, it's me. You. Why are you here again? Widow Lu hadn't wanted to make a sound, but she was afraid Li Yuanyang would break the door down. I caught some game and brought it to you. Just go away. I don't want it. Widow Lu didn't believe him. It was this same kind of deceptive trick again. It was late at night now, so she couldn't open the door for him. Sister Lu, are you still mad at me? Widow Lu said nothing, not wanting to pay him any attention. Sister Lu, then I'll leave the pheasant on the ground. I'll keep using the big bow for now. If I catch any game, you must get your share. Li Yuanyang placed a pheasant weighing close to 2 jin on the ground, putting something underneath it. This stuff doesn't taste good. It has an earthy, gamey smell, far worse than domesticated ones. I don't want it. Take it back. Widow Lu still didn't believe him. A man's mouth can't be trusted. She braced the door with a big piece of wood, so there was no way anyone outside could force their way in. But after quite a while, Widow Lu grew curious. Why had it gone quiet? Could he be hiding outside? She waited a while longer and even peeked through the crack in the door. It seemed he really had left. Her gaze dropped, and there really was a pheasant there. Widow Lu opened the door, picked up the pheasant, and stared at it blankly. That bastard. He really caught game? And this pheasant was quite heavy. If this were sold on the black market, wouldn't it fetch 2 yuan? She truly hadn't expected Li Yuanyang to be so generous. Could it be that I wronged him before? Did he really just want to borrow the big bow? She scratched her head, took the pheasant, and shut the gate. As Widow Lu plucked the feathers, she thought, how much game did Yangzi catch? After giving me this, does he still have anything to eat himself? How about bringing him some once it's cooked later? No. That guy treated me like that this morning. After Li Yuanyang left that morning, Widow Lu wanted to report the matter to the production team, but after going out, she ran back and didn't go. At the Li family courtyard, the room door was tightly shut. Sister-in-law looked outside through the crack in the door, glancing at the stove from time to time and occasionally adding firewood. It was almost dark by now, and she thought to herself, why isn't my brother-in-law back yet? He's been out all day. She opened the door, preparing to get some firewood. When she went over to the woodshed and looked, because of the funeral, there wasn't much firewood left for holing up through the winter. Just then, a man's voice came from outside the courtyard. Yuanfeng's wife. Sister-in-law was fussing with a large log when the shout startled her. Holding the firewood in her hand, she looked outside the courtyard. It was the hoodlum, Zhonglong. Do you need something? A look of displeasure appeared on sister-in-law's face. This man often drank with Li Yuanyang, so they would run into each other from time to time. But the way he looked at her was very unfriendly. Where's Yangzi? Zhonglong peered toward the inner room, but didn't see him. Yangzi went out to borrow some firewood and will be back in a bit. Sister-in-law tried to bluff him, her tone calm. As she spoke, she gripped the large log tightly in her hand. Zhonglong raised his eyebrows and only spoke after a few seconds. Really? I think he's probably still up in the mountains, right? Maybe he's already been eaten by wolves. Hearing that, sister-in-law's pupils contracted slightly. She naturally knew Zhonglong said it on purpose, but she couldn't help worrying inside, because her brother-in-law really had gone up the mountain. If anything happened to him, the fate of her and her younger sister would be thrown into turmoil again. She didn't dare imagine what life would be like afterward. She was also truly worried about Li Yuanyang. In East Hamlet, her brother-in-law could be said to be the person she trusted most, and also the one closest to her. Believe it or not, I've asked all the villagers who came down from Bigwood Mountain, and they all said they hadn't seen Yangzi. Zhonglong looked full of schadenfreude. Sister-in-law's brows knitted into a tight knot, and she grew even more worried about her brother-in-law. Zhonglong continued. Yuanfeng's wife, your family can hardly make ends meet now, right? How many days' worth of grain do you have left? Zhonglong, what exactly are you trying to say? Don't you understand what I mean? You should know that Yangzi owes me 6 yuan and 5 jiao, right? We will repay it. Sure. Then pay it back right now. Sister-in-law was momentarily speechless. She only had a few mao on her. I can give you part of it first, and repay the rest little by little later. As she spoke, she was about to go home to get the money. Hold on. Zhongling stopped her. Yuanfeng's wife, don't you understand what I mean? You're a single woman now. Sooner or later, the production brigade will assign you to me. When that time comes, Yangzi will still have to repay me that money. You might as well marry me now. Then I can let the 6 yuan and 5 jiao go. And if you follow me, I guarantee you'll have more grain than you can eat. Zhang Lung was worried that when the brigade made assignments in a month, it might not be his turn, so he had to make the first move. Anyway, those 6 yuan and 5 jiao had been swindled in the first place. Sister-in-law paused mid-step. If her younger brother-in-law didn't marry her younger sister, then it really would be just as Zhang Lung said. But her younger brother-in-law had already agreed this morning to marry her younger sister, and she had also come to terms with it. Even if her younger brother-in-law did not marry her younger sister, when the time came and the brigade forcibly assigned her, she would do as Widow Lu had done and threaten them with death. You can marry me, but what you'll get will definitely be a corpse. Sister-in-law had a stubborn personality. Otherwise, she would not have stayed behind to take care of a gravely ill Li Yuanfeng whom she had just met back then. Zhang Lung, please leave. You don't need to worry about any of this. I will repay the money. Sister-in-law ordered him to leave. Zhang Lung had not expected this woman to be so stubborn. It left him a bit at a loss. Fine. Since you're unwilling, then don't blame me for being heartless. You must repay this money within 3 days, or I'll report it to the police. Where are you going to report it? To the public security? To the town. Zhang Lung stopped halfway through his sentence, his pupils suddenly contracting. The voice had come from behind him. Yangzi. When Zhang Lung saw Li Yuanyang, he subconsciously took a step back, a purely instinctive bodily reaction, because he had been beaten once before. Then he thought again that he hadn't even entered the courtyard, nor had he said anything too excessive. Thinking of that, he straightened his back a little more. Yangzi, I didn't expect you to come back alive. Good then. Come repay the money. Repay what money? Li Yuanyang shifted his gaze away from sister-in-law. It looked like nothing had happened. He gently set down the sack and looked at Zhang Lung. You, don't play dumb with me. Zhang Lung pulled out an IOU from his shoulder bag and spread it open for Li Yuanyang to see. Here, this is your signature. You owe me. Rip. Before Zhang Lung could finish speaking, Li Yuanyang snatched the IOU away and didn't even glance at it. Ryup. Right in front of Zhang Lung. He tore the IOU to pieces and threw the scraps in his face. Where's the IOU? You. Zhang Lung pointed at Li Yuanyang, furious beyond measure. Crack. Li Yuanyang grabbed his finger and forcefully bent it backward. Next time, don't point at me with your finger. I don't like it. My hand. Before Zhang Lung could cry out another half-sentence, Li Yuanyang kicked him straight in the stomach. Uft. Cough. Zhang Lung's mouth gaped open as he dropped to his knees, unable to make a sound because he had the wind knocked out of him. Li Yuanyang picked up the sack and walked into the courtyard, coming over to sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, what did he come here for? He finally asked, having no idea at all what Zhang Lung had said or done. But he knew Zhang Lung definitely hadn't come with any good intentions. Sister-in-law stared blankly at Zhang Lung rolling on the ground outside the courtyard, and only reacted when she heard Li Yuanyang's words. Sister-in-law, did he come into the courtyard? Li Yuanyang asked again. Sister-in-law shook her head slightly. She felt that her younger brother-in-law seemed like a different person, but she couldn't put her finger on exactly what was different. Yangzi, you hit him. Will there be? No. Even if the production brigade comes, I'm not afraid. But we owe him money. Sister-in-law clasped her hands tightly to her chest, her face full of worry. That's not true. I was drunk, and they ganged up to set me up. Besides, the IOU doesn't even have the brigade's official stamp on it, so he can't do anything to me. What's more, the IOU is already gone, isn't it? Really nothing will happen? Sister-in-law was confused by what Li Yuanyang had done. Of course. When have I ever lied to you, sister-in-law? Li Yuanyang said seriously. Hearing this, sister-in-law frowned slightly, as if to say, haven't you lied to me plenty of times? In the past, in order to drink, Li Yuanyang was always coming up with rotten ideas, making up excuses that Big Brother was with the barefoot doctor and needed money. Simple-minded sister-in-law had been tricked several times. Oh right, what did that hoodlum say to you? Li Yuanyang looked at Zhang Lung, who was crawling out. Sister-in-law glanced outside the yard and shook her head. No. With the way her younger brother-in-law was now, she worried that if she told him, he would go over and beat the man again. That's good, let's go inside. Seeing that she was still dazed, Li Yuanyang reached out and gently pushed her into the house. Only after entering the inner room did sister-in-law remember that her younger brother-in-law had gone up the mountain today, and that she had also heard Zhang Lung say that Li Yuanyang had been eaten by wolves. Yangzi, you're not hurt, are you? She came to Li Yuanyang's side and reached out to check him over. Sister-in-law, I'm fine, perfectly fine. Li Yuanyang put down the sack and said with a smile, even raising both hands and gesturing a couple of times. It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine. Sister-in-law patted her half-foot-thick round chest, relieved after a scare. Yangzi, you must be hungry, right? It'll be ready soon. She turned around and accidentally kicked the sack. What's this? She curiously picked up the sack. It was a bit heavy. Why don't you open it and see? Li Yuanyang took off the gear on his body. This. Sister-in-law opened it and looked, and under the dim yellow light of the kerosene lamp, gradually saw the full contents of the sack clearly. Her little mouth fell open in shock, and she was too stunned to speak. Yangzi, this is what you caught? She raised her head and looked at Li Yuanyang. Believe me now? By the time Li Yuanyang came back, he had already cleared out all the dried fruits and hay inside. You really caught this? Why does sister-in-law seem a little unconvinced? Of course, what else could I have robbed it? Li Yuanyang picked up the rabbit and the sand half-chicken. Then, the mountain must have been very dangerous, right? Let's not go up the mountain again in the future, okay? Only after her delight did sister-in-law realize that this rabbit must not have come easily. Otherwise, with her younger brother-in-law's physique and knowledge, to put it bluntly, he was even a bit worse than the villagers of the same age. One could imagine how difficult it had been for her younger brother-in-law to go up the mountain this time, and how lucky he was. It wasn't dangerous at all. It's just that the rabbit was extremely cunning. It made me squat there for a long time before I finally caught one. Li Yuanyang put down the prey and boasted as if he were telling a story. As he talked, he suddenly noticed that sister-in-law had been looking at him the whole time, her eyes full of heartache. Sister-in-law, don't worry. I won't let you two sisters go hungry, and I definitely won't abandon you two and stop caring about you. Li Yuanyang turned around and hung up the big bow. Looking at his back, sister-in-law's tears involuntarily fell. Yangzi, thank you. Sister-in-law was deeply grateful from the bottom of her heart. It was Li Yuanyang's words, I won't let you two sisters go hungry, and I definitely won't abandon you two and stop caring about you. That deeply moved her. Just think, for someone who had never hunted before, to risk his life and go hunting in the snow-covered mountains, all for the two sisters. In the past, she might not have felt this deeply, but now there was a famine, and there were quite a few people outside starving to death. Sigh, we're all one family. Li Yuanyang turned around and saw that sister-in-law had also just turned away, her head slightly lowered, reaching up to wipe her eyes. Sister-in-law, go get some firewood. I'll butcher it. Tonight the two of us will eat meat. Hom. Sister-in-law wiped her eyes and hurried out of the house. Li Yuanyang pretended not to notice. There was no need to be so sentimental when they were family. Saying 10 things was not as good as doing one. So love isn't spoken, it's shown through actions. Inside the house, the brother-in-law and sister-in-law squatted on the ground. Sister-in-law was plucking the feathers from the hazel grouse. Li Yuanyang, meanwhile, kept turning the gray rabbit over and over, working on it repeatedly. The purpose was to make the stiff rabbit body a bit softer, to make it easier to handle and skin. Being frozen stiff was really hard to deal with. After a long while, he began making a cut with a small knife at the heel of the gray rabbit's foot. Since it wasn't hung up and the rabbit's body was rather stiff, skinning it was especially laborious. Sure enough, freshly killed is better. Sister-in-law raised her eyes to look at Li Yuanyang, a little curious. How was this younger brother-in-law so skilled at processing prey? She had never seen him kill prey before. Could it be that he had been a hunter before? She just didn't know? After all, her husband had never said Li Yuanyang could hunt. Or had he said he couldn't, only reminded her to keep the door shut tighter when bathing. But she had only married into the Li family a little over 3 months ago, so it was normal not to have seen a person clearly yet. Thinking of it that way, she felt it made sense. Sister-in-law, is there something dirty on my face? Li Yuanyang noticed sister-in-law had been staring at him, and he couldn't help touching his face, accidentally getting a bit of rabbit fur on it. No. Sister-in-law quickly withdrew her gaze, then glanced at him again. Yangzi, there's something on your face now. Where? Li Yuanyang touched his face again, and there was even more on it. Seeing him like this, sister-in-law couldn't help but smile, which made Li Yuanyang stare blankly. It wasn't that her smile was especially beautiful or stunning, though it was indeed quite pretty, just that she was a bit too thin. That's not the point. The point was that this was the first time Li Yuanyang had seen sister-in-law smile so naturally. Perhaps since sister-in-law came to the Li family, she hadn't encountered a single good thing, causing her usual smiles to be forced. While he was lost in thought, sister-in-law had already moved close in front of him and reached out to wipe the rabbit fur and smudges off Li Yuanyang's face. There, now it's gone. Sister-in-law smiled. The two gazed at each other at close range, meeting each other's eyes for 2 seconds. Only then did sister-in-law realize that her behavior was somewhat inappropriate, and she quickly crouched back to her original spot, lowering her head and continuing to pluck feathers. Yuanyang also came back to his senses, and while handling the rabbit, he occasionally chatted with sister-in-law about everyday family matters to ease the atmosphere. After a while, the rabbit and hazel grouse were finally cleaned up. Yangzi, which one are we eating tonight? Sister-in-law asked. After all, these were all hunted by her younger brother-in-law at the risk of his life, so she had to ask his opinion. Sister-in-law, which one do you prefer? Sister-in-law thought for a moment before saying, how about the hazel grouse? She wanted to save the other for later. But Yuanyang disagreed. That's too little. Let's eat the rabbit tonight. I'll go to the root cellar and get some potatoes. Then all right. Sister-in-law responded and started busying herself. Yuanyang came to the cellar and found there was only 1 cabbage and 2 or 3 potatoes inside. It really was almost empty. He had to find a way to get some potatoes, cabbage, and grain. Those were the staples, after all. Besides, eating too much meat wasn't good, and there was no oil for the pan, and even the salt was running low. Yuanyang came back up with the potatoes. Sister-in-law was about to put half a gene of rabbit meat into the pot and put all the rest into the yard's natural refrigerator, a snow pit, homemade. Why are we only eating this little? How is that enough to eat? Yuanyang pointed at the meat in the pot, somewhat stunned. Sister-in-law, this prey was hard for me to catch. The 2 of us have to have a big feast tonight. As he spoke, he ran outside, but sister-in-law grabbed him at once. Yangzi, this is enough for us. I don't eat much. And precisely because it was hard to come by, we should cherish it even more. If we eat sparingly, this will last us several days. How can that do? Look how thin you've gotten. We have to make more. If it's not enough, I'll go back up the mountain and hunt some more. As Yuanyang spoke, he started heading out again. Sister-in-law put down the cooking utensils and pulled him with both hands, almost unable to hold him back. Yangzi, it's really enough. We haven't had any meat in a long time. If we eat too much, tomorrow we might what? Diarrhea. Sister-in-law found it a little hard to say. Oh, so that's how it is? Yuanyang had forgotten about that. After all, in later times there was no worry about food or drink, and you could eat whatever you wanted. He simply hadn't considered this issue at all. But surely it doesn't have to be just half a gene for 2 people to eat. Sister-in-law couldn't win against her younger brother-in-law, so in the end the whole gene went into the pot, along with 2 potatoes and some seasonings, mountain peppercorns, and a little of the last remaining dried mushrooms. This meal made sister-in-law's heart ache as she stewed it, thinking that her younger brother-in-law really didn't know how to eat sparingly. Half an hour later, on the Kong table sat a plate of big pot stew, giving off fragrant white steam. For this era, this really was fragrant, but compared with later times, it still fell far short. Sister-in-law, let's hurry and dig in. It won't taste as good once it gets cold, Liang said, holding up his chopsticks. He saw sister-in-law just staring blankly at the big pot stew, not knowing what she was thinking. Hom. Sister-in-law responded, picked up a piece of potato, and held a corn bun in one hand. Sister-in-law, eat this, have more meat. Yuanyang picked up a piece of rabbit meat and put it into sister-in-law's bowl. Looking at the meat in her bowl, since marrying into the Li family, this was only the 2nd time she had eaten meat. The first time was at the wedding, when they killed a chicken. Though they called it a wedding, it was only verbal. In reality, they hadn't gone to register the marriage, because Li Yuanfeng was seriously ill and had no way to board the plane. This was the 2nd time she had eaten meat, and her younger brother-in-law had even picked food for her. Yangzi, thank you. What's there to thank me for? Without you, sister-in-law, I, Li Yuanyang, wouldn't be able to live out this life. Do you believe that? Li Yuanyang was very lazy when it came to housework, and even less capable when it came to cooking. Of course, he could do it if he had to, but it would taste awful. You don't talk nonsense. Sister-in-law lowered her head slightly, seeming to misunderstand Li Yuanyang's words. Then let me put it another way. Sister-in-law, you have to take care of me for the rest of my life. Just then, knocking came from outside the door. Knock, knock, knock. Xiaoman. Sister-in-law's name was Liao Xiaoman, just one character different from his younger sister's name. The 2 people in the inner room exchanged a glance, both recognizing the voice. It was Widow Lu from not far next door, Lu Jingfang. I'll go open the door. Liao Xiaoman put down her bowl and chopsticks and opened the door with a creak. Sister Lu, what's this? She saw that Lu Jingfang was holding a bowl in her hands, white steam rising from it. Meat? Xiaoman, this is for you. As Lu Jingfang spoke, she pushed the bowl over and glanced toward the inner room. The door was closed so she couldn't see inside. She didn't see that bastard. This. Sister Lu. I can't accept this. Before Liao Xiaoman could finish, Lu Jingfang interrupted. Xiaoman, I still have some at home. Just take this wild chicken. Xiaoman, just take this wild chicken. Sister Lu, I have some at home too. Before Liao Xiaoman had time to finish speaking, Lu Jingfang pushed the bowl toward her and left directly. There's really nothing she could do about her. In the 3 months since Liao Xiaoman married into the Li family, Lu Jingfang was one of the very few people who had helped support the Li family. In total, twice. The first time was in the 2nd month after Li Yuanfeng became seriously ill, when Lu Jingfang brought some coarse grains, saying she lived alone and had enough to eat, with grain to spare. This was the 2nd time, and it was even wild chicken meat. Thud. Liao Xiaoman set it on the Kong table, which surprised Li Yuanyang greatly. He had treated her like that this morning, yet she was still worried you had no meat to eat, and even cooked it, and personally brought it over. In times like these, there was truly nothing bad to say about Lu Jingfang. She was genuinely kind-hearted. After dinner, Liao Xiaoman came in from outside the yard carrying firewood, planning to heat the Kong so they could sleep well tonight. But outside, there was only half a day's worth of large firewood left. Li Yuanyang was busy in the outer room, using wooden sticks to stretch out the gray rabbit's fur, planning to dry it and make a rabbit head hood for sister-in-law to wear. He wouldn't wear it himself. Yangzi, where are you going tomorrow? Liao Xiaoman suddenly asked. I'm going up the mountain tomorrow. Oh, what's wrong, sister-in-law? Nothing, I was just asking. If Li Yuanyang had nothing to do tomorrow, Liao Xiaoman had planned to go up the mountain with him to chop large firewood. Since he wasn't free, Liao Xiaoman decided to go by herself. Li Yuanyang suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist. She struggled slightly, but didn't pull free. Liao Xiaoman's little hands were full of cracks and chilblains, while Li Yuanyang's, by contrast, were mostly fine. Sister-in-law, look at your hands. They must hurt a lot, right? Li Yuanyang looked somewhat distressed. Sister-in-law does all the housework. I'm fine. Liao Xiaoman quickly pulled her hand back and squatted on the ground to sort the firewood. Yangzi, doesn't our family still have some food left? How about you rest at home for a few days before going up the mountain? Or we can think of some other way. She changed the subject as she asked, and she was also genuinely worried about her younger brother-in-law. After all, the snowy mountains were dangerous. I'll figure something out about the food. This time, I want to try my luck in the mountains and see if I can bring back a badger. Badger oil is a mythical existence. It can treat chilblains, cracked skin, moisturize the skin, treat scalds, relieve pain from burns, and even leave no scars. Older folks say that drinking a small spoonful of badger oil on an empty stomach can even treat stomach problems. After all, with our family's circumstances, I still can't afford cold cream. But Li Yuanyang wasn't discouraged. Sooner or later, they would have these things, just slowly. Hearing this, Liao Xiaoman felt a warmth in her heart. So this was why her younger brother-in-law was doing it. No wonder he kept looking at me while eating, and just now grabbed my hand again. Then tomorrow I'll make you some steamed corn buns stuffed with meat to take up the mountain to eat. Liao Xiaoman knew her younger brother-in-law was becoming more and more impossible to dissuade. So she could only do what she could, what was within her power. Okay. After saying that, Li Yuanyang turned around to sort out his gear. Some of it needed fixing, otherwise it would be unusable. He also sharpened the chopping knife a bit more so it could come in handy tomorrow. Early the next morning, Li Yuanyang repeated yesterday's exercise, continuing to stretch his muscles and bones, gradually increasing the intensity. He couldn't rush it. After breakfast, he slung the big bow and chopping knife over his back and prepared to head out. Yangzi, be careful. Sister-in-law, even if not for myself, I still have to think of you all. Don't worry, I'm very afraid of death. Liao Xiaoman smiled and nodded. It was her first time seeing someone use being afraid of death to comfort another person. Li Yuanyang stepped forward and waved his hand. I'm off. Liao Xiaoman watched him leave, clasped her hands together, and silently prayed in her heart. You must return safely. On Dama Mountain. Zhou Liheng was already waiting there early. There were quite a few cigarette butts on the ground, clearly showing he had been waiting a long time. After quite a while, Li Yuanyang arrived as well. What took you so long to get here? Zhou Liheng punched him lightly on the shoulder, his tone carrying anger. Li Yuanyang narrowed his eyes slightly, glanced at him, and didn't get angry. The reason he had come so late was because he had taken a detour. He couldn't let others see him going up the mountain. Delaying a bit longer was also to let the people going up Dama Mountain leave first, to avoid running into them. Thud. Zhou Liheng hit him again. Yangzi, are you deaf? I'm talking to you. Li Yuanyang glanced at him. He really wanted to kill this bastard right now. Hiss. As he looked at him, he suddenly thought of something. This guy seemed to have always been pining after his own sister-in-law. Well then, I'll shatter your Dao heart first, then kill you. It's all my sister-in-law's fault, Sai? Let's go, brother Liying. After saying that, he headed straight toward the other side of the mountain, avoiding places where people might be as much as possible. A trace of curiosity flashed through Zhou Liheng's eyes, and he quickly followed. The two walked shoulder to shoulder. Yangzi, what did you just say? Nothing. What's there to say about that little crap? Li Yuanyang spoke ambiguously, with a smug, sleazy expression. That little crap? Zhou Liheng's expression gradually turned ugly. Could this beast have hooked up with sister-in-law? Damn it. Zhou Liheng forced a smile and probed. Yangzi, your sister-in-law is pretty, huh? Could it be that you? This made Zhou Liheng so angry that he gritted his teeth. That damned Li Yuanyang. Could it be that uncle and sister-in-law had really gotten together? Yangzi, you and your sister-in-law. Don't tell me you two really did that? Hee hee. Last night. Li Yuanyang smiled, and the topic came to an abrupt stop. The two chatted as they hurried along. Even after entering the deep mountains, Zhou Liheng was still pressing the question, because Li Yuanyang always stopped halfway and refused to finish. Yangzi, say it clearly. Did you two get together or not? What could I have with my own sister-in-law? I just had that thought, that's all. How would I dare actually mess around? Facing him, Li Yuanyang sighed. Really? Zhou Liheng was delighted inside. That's what he thought. Did this idiot really have the guts for that? No way. I wouldn't dare even if I had 10 times the courage. My elder brother just died. Even the first 7 days haven't passed yet. If I really did that kind of thing to sister-in-law, would I still be human? Yangzi, it's a good thing you didn't make that mistake, or heaven's justice wouldn't allow it. Ha ha ha. Zhou Liheng burst out laughing, feeling somewhat relieved, though his anger still hadn't subsided. Li Yuanyang had strung him along the whole way. Turns out he was just a bastard who only knew how to run his mouth. Humph. Once we catch the rabbit later, if I don't torture you properly, my surname isn't Zhou. Yangzi, where's that rabbit hole? The hole is over there. Look. Li Yuanyang pointed with his left hand toward the front side, and Zhou Liheng looked in that direction. The instant Zhou Liheng's gaze shifted, Li Yuanyang's expression changed drastically. His right hand gripped the knife hilt hard and quickly drew the blade. Whoosh. The blade slashed horizontally at his face, because only his face wasn't covered by cloth. Other parts were harder to cut into. And because he was big, Li Yuanyang chose a sneak attack to avoid any accidents. As long as he could kill the other party, the method wasn't especially important. The winner is king. Flash. With one stroke of the knife, a ghastly gash exposing white bone instantly appeared across Zhou Liheng's face, splitting horizontally from the middle of the bridge of his nose, completely bloodless. He only felt as if his face had been struck, took a slight step back, and felt some stinging numbness. A second later, blood quickly seeped out of the wound on Zhou Liheng's face, like a leaking water pipe, pouring out unstoppably. He felt as if he were choking on water when breathing. Cold air and warm water? Zhou Liheng subconsciously reached up and touched his face. It felt warm and wet. He held his hand before his eyes, and his pupils suddenly contracted. Blood? Blood. He reached toward his face again. When his fingers touched the wound, the feeling was like farmland soil that had been parched for years, cracking open. You. Zhou Liheng looked at Li Yuanyang, who was gripping the chopping knife tightly, his eyes ice-cold and his expression terrifying. It formed a stark contrast with the sly, smirking persona from just now, completely like a different person. In just a few short seconds, Zhou Liheng staggered unsteadily. As blood kept pouring out, he could barely remain standing. Li Yuanyang stepped forward and swung the machete at Zhou Liheng again, this time at the hand reaching for the gun. Swish. Her fingers were chopped off in the blink of an eye, one of them still hanging by a strip of skin. Ow. Only then did Zhou Liheng feel the pain in his face and the fear brought by Li Yuanyang. He had only cried out half a line when Li Yuanyang shoved the machete straight into his mouth. MPH. The scream stopped immediately. After a while, Li Yuanyang laid out the things he had looted on the clean snow. Half a pack of Handshake brand filterless cigarettes, half a box of Victory brand matches, black powder, bullets, as well as 1 yuan 76 cents, cornbread, a sack, and other items. Wasn't this guy supposed to be pretty rich? How come he only had this little money? But thinking about it, that made sense too. Most of his money was hidden away. Li Yuanyang crouched down, grabbed snow to wipe clean the blood-stained items, and scrubbed them over and over. After a long while, he slung the gun and other gear over his back and came to the corpse. He stuffed the 6 cents, cigarettes, matches, cornbread, and part of the gunpowder and bullets into Zhou Liheng's shoulder bag pockets separately. He didn't want the sack either. It had marks and bloodstains on it. Once everything was done, Li Yuanyang followed his incoming footprints back. With each step, he covered the extra footprints with snow, making it look like there had been only one person. As he worked, he thought, this gun, what exactly should he do with it? Its origin was illegitimate, so it couldn't be shown openly, and it also had markings on it. Since it was still early, Li Yuanyang planned to go home first, then make a trip to town and buy some daily necessities on the way back. But by an unfortunate coincidence, he ran into Ding Shanhe in the shallower area of Dama Mountain. Now that was trouble. Li Yuanyang recognized Ding Shanhe from far away. With no other choice, he had to change his plan and hide the gun. There happened to be a large rock nearby. Li Yuanyang ducked behind it, and by the time he came out, Ding Shanhe had already reached the rock. So it's Yangzi? I thought it was Brother Liang. Ding Shanhe said between heavy breaths. He had run over. Li Yuanyang hitched up his pants. When nature calls, it's normal. Just got a little too excited. Brother Shanhe, where are you headed? His tone was calm and curious. Huh, I'm looking for Brother Liang. Have you seen him? Li Yuanyang thought for a moment and said, I did see him when I was going up the mountain earlier, right where we greeted each other yesterday. I went down the mountain to look, but didn't see him. Ding Shanhe had also only hurried down the mountain because he heard from someone else that Zhou Liheng was at the foot of the mountain. Brother Shanhe, you seem pretty anxious. What exactly happened? Li Yuanyang asked curiously. Well, Ding Shanhe wasn't good at lying, but he still didn't speak. Li Yuanyang could naturally tell, so he took the initiative to end the topic. I didn't get much today, so I'll be going first. He had only taken a few steps when Ding Shanhe suddenly called out to stop him. Yangzi, wait a second. What's up, Brother Shanhe? Li Yuanyang paused and asked. I see you're carrying a big bow. Yangzi, you know how to shoot arrows, right? I've practiced before. Really? That's great. Ding Shanhe was a little excited. Yangzi, to be honest with you, I just found a badger on the mountain. He recounted in detail what had happened with the badger. Yangzi, are you confident you can hunt it? Yes. Li Yuanyang said only that one word, full of confidence. Ding Shanhe immediately smiled. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go? Brother Shanhe, let's find some dry grass first. Dry grass? Right. For a badger to come out looking for food, it must have been forced by circumstances. After all, at this time, they should be hibernating. Li Yuanyang explained the habits of badgers to Ding Shanhe. They usually eat heavily before hibernation. Maybe due to environmental factors, the badger didn't eat much before winter, and that's why it came out to forage. This kind of probability is very low, but if so, then the badger shouldn't be very big. And they hibernate because they're afraid of the cold and hide away. So the time they spend coming out to forage will be very short. And before long it will return to its den. So the only way to hunt it is by smoking it out. They found some dry grass and headed to the destination together. Yangzi, I really didn't expect you to know so much. It was as if Ding Shanhe was seeing him in a new light. He had never looked down on anyone, but Li Yuanyang had always been a good-for-nothing and had accomplished nothing. The fact that Ding Shanhe had been able to speak to him and greet him normally before was already the greatest respect. I just read it in books too. I don't know if it's accurate. Li Yuanyang casually came up with an excuse. Huh, Yangzi, you can read? Ding Shanhe was shocked. Wasn't it said that everyone in the Li family was illiterate? Soon, the two arrived at a sunny mountainside slope, where the shrubs were dense and the grass and snow lay in clumps. And there were many small footprints on the snow, in 2 rows going back and forth. Yangzi, you were right. Their foraging time is short. Looking at these tracks, it should have returned to its den. Ding Shanhe began looking for other dens near the burrow, to see if there were any other connected exits. He had heard Li Yuanyang say that badgers were experts at building homes and liked digging holes. After 10 minutes of searching, the two found 4 openings in different spots, about 2 meters apart. Yangzi, I've blocked the middle opening. What do we do next? Ding Shanhe now trusted Li Yuanyang beyond compare, because everything he said had come true. Brother Shanhe, take that big piece of firewood and guard the opening over there. If it doesn't crawl into the sack, then give it a good whack with the stick. After Li Yuanyang finished speaking, he started a fire. He held a machete in his hand, with the big bough set beside him, his eyes fixed on another opening. After a short while, white smoke began to rise from the 2 openings where the snow had been cleared away. Ding Shanhe gripped the wooden club tightly, a little nervous and excited. This was probably the first hunt of his life. Before, following Zhou Liheng, he had only learned a few basics and had never actually hunted. Meanwhile, Li Yuanyang stared fixedly at the drifting smoke from the hole. If there was any disturbance, then the badger was definitely inside. Sure enough, the drifting smoke at the opening in front of him began to shake. The fellow inside was about to be unable to hold out any longer. Brother Shanha, pay attention. Okay. The two were fully focused, but accidents always happen in life. With a sudden rustling sound, noise came from not far away. Yuanyang turned toward the sound, immediately set down the machete in his hand, picked up the big bow within easy reach, and quickly knocked an arrow and drew the string. He hadn't expected there to be a fifth opening as well. Careless of him. Brother Shanha, don't move. Hearing the command, Ding Shanha tilted his head and stayed perfectly still. Yuanyang immediately shifted the bow slightly to track it, predicting the route of the badger's escape. He had to kill it with one shot. Otherwise, if he missed, there was no telling whether he could catch up to it. He took aim, released his hand, and the arrow shot out instantly. Whoosh! The arrow spun slightly in midair, cutting through the air as it flew straight at the fleeing badger. Yuanyang did not let down his guard. He immediately prepared a second arrow, his foot already stepping forward, intending to chase after it. At the very moment he took that step, the badger ahead let out a low, rough growl, all muffled grunts and hisses. Yangzi, you hit it. Ding Shanha was beside himself with excitement as the two quickly moved toward the badger. Puffed. Whether the badger was dead or not, Ding Shanha brought a wooden club down on its head, partly to join in and partly to keep the prey from escaping. Yangzi, you're amazing. Just got lucky. Yuanyang looked at the badger. The arrow had hit its back, and his hit rate was much higher than before. He took out his machete and slit the badger's neck to bleed it. This blood is going to waste. We don't have a container for blood, otherwise we could take it back and eat it. Ding Shanha watched from the side without saying a word. If Yuanyang told him to do something, he would do it. If Yuanyang didn't tell him to do anything, he would just watch and learn from the experience. This time, Yuanyang chose to skin it and gut it on the spot. Ding Shanha was responsible for the dirtiest work, dealing with the intestines, and when they got dirty, he cleaned them with snow. It is said that hunters need to hang the intestines or unwanted parts on a tree, leaving them for the mountain god as a thank you gift. You can't really call it superstition, it's a kind of folk belief. In the end, Yuanyang also followed the rules, placing the badger's lungs and some unwanted scraps on the tree as a gesture of thanks. Yangzi, I'll carry this prey. Ding Shanha voluntarily took on the manual labor, mostly out of a sense of pride. This badger probably weighed 16 or 17 jin, so it wasn't exactly skinny. Under normal circumstances, they can weigh a bit over 20 jin, and the big ones can reach 30. Are we still going to hunt somewhere else? Ding Shanha suddenly asked as he walked shoulder to shoulder with Yuanyang. The two had already stayed here for nearly an hour. If they didn't leave soon, wild beasts might come over. There might even be wild beasts lurking in the distance, just not daring to come over. Yuanyang shook his head. No? It should already be past 2 o'clock now. If we go looking for prey again, I'm afraid we won't make it back even by nightfall. Brother Shanha, we can't be too greedy. Getting a badger today is already extremely lucky. Maybe some people didn't even manage to scrape any tree bark. Besides, we're already considered to be in the deep mountains, and we reek of blood. If we stay any longer, I'm afraid we'll attract uninvited guests. What's more, we don't have any guns. So if we run into a big wild boar or wolves, it will be hard to avoid getting hurt. In serious cases, it could even cost us our lives. That wasn't an exaggeration at all. In famine years, people need food, and animals need food too. Who knows how many people climbing the mountain these days have become their rations? Yangzi, you make sense. A person has to know when to be content. This badger is enough for us to eat for many days. Although Ding Shanha was older, this was only his third time going up the mountain, so there was still a lot he didn't understand. But he was eager to learn and learned quickly, almost remembering everything Yuanyang said. Yangzi, why didn't I notice before? Turns out you know so much about hunting. Actually, I don't know if it's right either. It's all stuff I heard from people in the village. Is that so? But I feel like you really do know. The two chatted as they walked. Midway up the mountain, 3 or 5 people carrying burlap sacks were gathered together. They had just come down from the mountain and were sitting, smoking, chatting, and resting. Old Du, I heard you've recently picked up a few tricks from Hunter Chen. Did you get anything? Hee. Hunter Chen grinned, his smile full of confidence. Got lucky today. You really got something? Let us take a look. Yeah. I haven't seen meat in ages. The group started clamoring together. Their sacks were filled with tree bark and dried nuts. And the lucky ones had gone and dug out a few gray squirrel nests. All right. I'll show you. Old Du opened his sack with a smile and let them take one quick look. Then whoosh, he tied it back up again. Looking both afraid it would be snatched and secretly pleased. The other's eyes immediately widened, and some even exaggeratedly swallowed. Inside the sack was a wild pheasant weighing a little over 1 jin, giving off a fishy, rank smell. But they wished they could take a few more deep sniffs to satisfy themselves. Seeing their expressions, old Du felt immensely satisfied inside. He couldn't help bragging. I'm not boasting. But on Bigwood Mountain, just for today, I, old Du, am definitely number 1. I'm not boasting, but on Bigwood Mountain, just for today, I, old Du, am definitely number 1 in East Village. Really? Isn't there still Hunter Chin? Hee hee. Old Chun hasn't had time to go up the mountain these past few days, old Du said with a smile. Then what about Zhou Liang? I saw it yesterday. He got 2 or 3 sand partridges. Yeah, I saw it too. Hearing this, old Du shook his head. How much do 2 or 3 sand partridges weigh altogether? More than half a jin? Besides, I'm talking about today. Isn't Zhou Liang still not down yet? Humph. Why don't you listen? Where has there been any gunfire on Dama Mountain today? Old Du said with an all-knowing air. Everyone thought about it, and that seemed true enough. But there are others too. Like Ding Shanhe. He made himself a bow. Someone voiced a doubt. Old Du laughed again. Huh? This is only his 3rd time up the mountain, right? What does he know? Whether that bow even works is still a question. He looked at everyone with great interest. Go on. Tell me. Who else is there? Hiss. Li Yuanyang, right? I saw Li Yuanyang go up the mountain yesterday, and he was carrying a big bow too. Ha ha ha. Old Du threw his head back and laughed. That kid's a good-for-nothing loafer. When it comes to eating, he leaves nothing. When it comes to working, he can do nothing. And he's going up the mountain to hunt? Humph. He took a puff from his old pipe and continued. I'm telling you, if he can actually catch any game. So what if I marry my daughter to him? Li Yuanyang had been pursuing old Du's daughter for far more than just a day or two. And he was shamelessly persistent about it. No money, no grain, and even his work points were half of other people's. It would be a cold day in hell before old Du married his daughter to him. So he demanded a bride price of 18 yuan, plus 50 jin of grain. How could a lazy idler like Li Yuanyang have any money? Everyone patted off their backsides, getting ready to go home. Just as they were about to leave, someone suddenly said, Look at those 2 on the mountain. Isn't that Li Yuanyang? Everyone looked in that direction, and it really did seem to be him. And they were even carrying sacks. They looked at old Du with gloating expressions. Old Du, do the words you just said still count? Yeah, old Du, those sacks of theirs look pretty heavy. None of them left. They stayed behind to watch the excitement. Old Du let out a cold laugh. Aren't your sacks heavy too? Everyone smacked their lips. This old Du really had a foul mouth, always bringing up exactly what people didn't want mentioned. Soon, Li Yuanyang and the other man came down from the mountain carrying big bows on their backs. Seeing that the 2 had no intention of stopping, the crowd immediately called out. Yangzi, wait a moment. Li Yuanyang paused. Uncles, what is it? They were all elders, so calling them uncle was only natural. But that one word, uncle, made them slightly stunned. Li Yuanyang rarely addressed people that way. Hee hee. Yangzi, what did you catch up in the mountains? One person stepped out and asked tentatively. Before Li Yuanyang could speak, Ding Shanhe spoke first. This was the first game he had ever caught in his life, and he really wanted to share it. We got a badger, hee hee. A badger? Wouldn't that be over 10 jin? Their gazes turned to the heavy sack, with a trace of greed in their eyes, but they also knew it hadn't come easy. Very quickly, everyone turned their attention to old Du, and couldn't help breaking into broad grins. Old Du, let us know when you're marrying off your daughter. We'll definitely come help. Ha ha ha. They burst into loud laughter. Old Du stood there holding his pipe, staring blankly at the 2 of them, his gaze dropping lower, to the heavy sack. He didn't disbelieve them, because Ding Shanhe was famous for being honest and never lying. But how could old Du be willing to marry his daughter to a good-for-nothing? He slowly exhaled a long plume of smoke. TCH. And you believe whatever people say? What's there to lie about? Sean has been honest since he was little. Do you think he'd lie? Everyone chimed in, though none of them dared open the sack to look, since rummaging through someone else's sack would be very rude. Old Du, just say it. Do your words from earlier still count or not? As that side chattered noisily, someone suddenly sidled up to Yangzi and the other man and muttered, Let me tell you, just now old Du was thumping his chest and telling us that as long as you caught any game, then old Du would marry his daughter to Yangzi. Li Yuanyang showed little reaction. It was true that he liked her in his previous life, but that didn't mean he liked her now. Many things change as people grow older. When you're older and look back on your youth, sometimes you feel it was stupid as hell, but sometimes you find it quite interesting. I say it only counts if Yangzi was the one who hunted it. And did you even see the badger? Old Du frowned and said irritably. As he spoke, he glanced at Li Yuanyang, thinking to himself, has this kid lost his mind today? Why isn't he greeting me? Normally, whenever Li Yuanyang spotted Old Du from far away, he would come trotting over with a grin to greet him. But today he was like a popsicle, acting as if he didn't know him at all. Yangzi shot this badger dead with one arrow from the big bow. Ding Shanha spoke loudly and even turned the sack out for them to see. Everyone widened their eyes and crowded forward, full of admiration, swallowing hard at the sight. Ding Shanha turned to Li Yuanyang, smiling as he raised his brows meaningfully. In East Hamlet, all the villagers knew that Li Yuanyang wanted to marry Old Du's daughter. He was really taken with her. So Ding Shanha seized the chance to give Li Yuanyang a push and help him win Old Du's daughter. Li Yuanyang shook his head and sighed. He'd have to remind Ding Shanha later to keep it as quiet as possible when they caught prey. Bragging everywhere would only invite trouble. Old Du, you've got nothing to say now, right? Yeah. Old Du, set a date, will you? Ha ha ha. Amid the crowd's roaring laughter, there was also a trace of bitter smiles mixed in. Others had managed to catch prey, while they themselves could only eat stale dried fruits and tree bark. Old Du's face turned livid. He truly hadn't expected that this hooligan Li Yuanyang had actually killed a badger. Old Du, say something. The crowd jeered. Old Du, speak. Say what? What is there to say? Old Du said with a frown, looking thoroughly displeased. You believe someone could catch a badger in winter? Maybe they just dug it out of its den. But even if they dug it out, they still killed it, didn't they? The crowd retorted. Exactly. Digging it out still means they got prey. I said hunting and digging it out. What kind of skill is that? Old Du turned his head aside, unwilling to admit it. Hearing that, Ding Shanha was unhappy. Uncle Du, although this prey was smoked out, Yangzi really did shoot it dead with one arrow. Old Du, listen to that. Surely you trust what Shanha says, right? He wouldn't lie, would he? Exactly. Old Du, you're just throwing a fit and refusing to honor your word. With everyone chiming in, Old Du got angry. What are you all arguing about? Is that what I said just now? What I said was that if Yangzi caught prey, I'd marry my daughter to him. But he wasn't the only one involved. Tell me, the prey was only killed because the two of them worked together. So how can that count? Humph. He straightened up with a cold snort, lifted the sack, and walked over to Li Yuanyang. Don't think that just because you've gained some ability, you can marry my daughter. Not a chance. After saying that, Old Du turned to leave, but Li Yuanyang suddenly called out to stop him. Wait a second. Old Du halted. Not even calling me uncle anymore? Don't even think about marrying into my family in this lifetime. Li Yuanyang immediately waved a hand to cut him off. Hold on. Who said I wanted to marry your daughter? Yangzi, didn't you always like Old Du's daughter? Ding Shanha asked quietly from the side. That was before. Li Yuanyang looked around at everyone. Uncles, from now on, when you talk about his daughter, please leave me out of it. I have nothing whatsoever to do with his daughter. Nothing whatsoever. After saying that, he left with Ding Shanha. Li Yuanyang didn't bear much resentment toward Old Du over marrying off his daughter. After all, he'd raised his daughter to this age. So asking for a bride price in grain was perfectly normal, even if he asked for a bit too much. Besides, it was Li Yuanyang himself who had been pestering them and refusing to give up. But Old Du was far too full of himself. Did he really think Li Yuanyang was that crazy about his daughter? He used to be, but not anymore. Everyone watched their backs as they left, slightly stunned. Was this still that good-for-nothing Li Yuanyang? This tone was completely unlike him. Yangzi, wait. I want to buy some meat. Oh right, I almost forgot he has a badger. Come on, let's go ask and see if we can buy some meat to satisfy the kid's cravings. After everyone left, Old Du was left standing there alone, muttering to himself. That little brat got full of himself just from catching a badger? Old Du shook his head, with an expression of having seen through it all. If you want to marry my daughter, without 18 yuan in grain, don't even dream of it, Li Yuanyang. Playing this little trick with me? Humph. Back then, Li Yuanyang really had used this kind of tactic of retreating in order to advance, but Old Du always stuck to his principles. No money, no grain, no chance. By the time the two returned to Dongtuan, it was already 4 in the afternoon. Several people followed after them asking if they could buy some badger meat or badger oil. Ding Shanha was willing in his heart. After all, they were all from the same village. But he took Li Yuanyang into consideration. After all, he was the one in charge of this catch, so Ding Shanha said nothing. And Li Yuanyang definitely wouldn't agree. They weren't trading meat, they were buying meat. Bartering was perfectly normal and legal in those days, but if money was used to buy it, the nature of it changed. If someone pointed fingers behind their backs and reported them, it would be quite troublesome then. Although he wasn't afraid, who likes inviting trouble? Li family courtyard. Li Yuanyang went into the house and looked around. His sister-in-law wasn't home, and he didn't know where she had gone. Yangzi, I'll just take 20%. When the badger oil is rendered later, could you save me a little? Ding Shanha felt that he hadn't done much, so 20% was about right. Besides, he knew Lu Jingfang's hunting bow had also played a part here, so some should be shared with her too. What's more, he had learned quite a bit himself and had even eaten one of their meat-filled wowatu. Li Yuanyang picked up the cleaver to divide the meat. Normally, it would be half for each person, or at the very least a 30 to 70 split. Ding Shanha was an honest man, so we can't take advantage of him. Since the other party only wanted 20%, he'd give him a little over 30%. He couldn't be too greedy himself. And he also had to share a bit with Li Jingfang, since she deserved part of the credit too. One must not forget one's roots. Yangzi, that's too much. Ding Shanha was holding 3 jin of bone-in meat and half of the offal. Altogether it weighed about 4 jin, close to 40%. For a 17 jin badger, the proportion of pure bone-in meat makes up about 53–60% of the whole, about 10 jin in total. Of that, badger oil accounts for around 15%, which equals 2.5 jin. What remained was the pelt, internal organs, and scraps, totaling 4.5 jin, and the offal left was at most 2 jin. It's not much at all. Honestly, I got the better end of the deal. Li Yuanyang was telling the truth. Without Ding Shanha's information, he didn't know when he'd have been able to catch a much-needed badger. When I sell the pelt later, you'll get a share too, Li Yuanyang added. Ding Shanha was very happy to hear this. He felt he had called the right person this time. If he had asked Zhou Liheng for help, he definitely wouldn't have been as easy to talk to as Li Yuanyang. Yangzi, I've already taken more than enough. I can't take the money from the pelt too. If I take more, my parents will scold me to death. Ding Shanha carried 3 jin of meat and 1 jin of offal, and it felt very heavy. If he took the money from the pelt too, then Ding Shanha wouldn't be human. All right then, Li Yuanyang responded. He could tell that Ding Shanha truly didn't want it. If you keep pushing it back and forth, it gets pointless. As Ding Shanha walked out of the courtyard gate, he turned back and asked, Yangzi, can you take me up the mountain with you next time? His tone carried caution and anticipation. I'm not sure when I'll go, so let's talk about it then. Li Yuanyang neither agreed nor refused. Although in his previous life Ding Shanha had been very good at hunting, right now he was a complete newbie. And besides, the Ding family had only him as their sole heir. If he took him hunting and something happened, who would bear the greatest responsibility? Wouldn't the Ding family hate him to death? So taking him along is fine, but it must be with his parents' consent, and the pros and cons have to be made clear. Okay, then I'll head out first. Ding Shanha was very happy. Li Yuanyang's answer meant there was a good chance. After the man left, Li Yuanyang stored the badger meat in the natural refrigerator, then after thinking it over, separated the rabbit meat as well. Then he went into the house once before heading out. He was going out to ask around about his sister-in-law's whereabouts. In the north, it gets dark very early in winter, sometimes a little after 4 or 5. If the weather is bad, it starts getting dark a little after 3. Li Yuanyang went from house to house in the village, asking whether anyone had seen his sister-in-law. After asking around, thankfully someone had seen her and said that in the morning she had gone up Yeka Mountain with Lu Jingfang to chop firewood. Yeka Mountain was a wolf den. It got the name Yeka Mountain because children's crying could occasionally be heard there at night. At this moment, the sky was gradually darkening. Li Yuanyang quickened his pace toward Yeka Mountain, feeling more and more worried inside. If anything happened to his sister-in-law, wouldn't his rebirth have been for nothing? Sister-in-law, please don't let anything happen to you.